This is CBC Here and Now.
Law will specify that you have to say who your shareholders are if you're going to do business with the government.
Day one of the election campaign, and the Tories promise no secrecy in business.
And they point the finger at the Liberal government's deal with Canopy Growth and the numbered company leasing the land.
A Crown lawyer says convicted police officer Joe Smythe should be sentenced to months in jail. We'll have more coming up on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes.
And I'm Peter Cowan. The signs are going in. The door knocking has started. Today was the first full day of campaigning in this provincial election.
And the PCs were blunt in their criticism of the government's marijuana deal with Canopy.
Here and Now's Garrett Barry was with the PC campaign. And tonight, Garrett, what's happening with the PCs?
Well, the PCs, if you wanted to see democracy in action, especially local democracy, you'd probably find it right here in the Goulds area of St. John's. Just across from this bus, the PCs are holding a nomination meeting, a nomination vote for this Fairyland district. After tonight, they'll have a 24th candidate in place for this upcoming election. Now, that's a fair bit short of the 40 that it needs for a full slate, but it's promising to get there in the next week, which is the deadline. Well, party volunteers are across from me in the parish hall sorting that out. Leader Ches Crosby was on the campaign trail today. He took aim at the Canopy Growth deal. He called this huge building that you're seeing right now a monument to cronyism. His issue was that the public doesn't know who is behind the numbered company leasing the land to Canopy Growth. He's promising if he gets elected, his government won't do any more deals with numbered companies.
The law will specify that you have to say who your shareholders are if you're going to do business with the government.
For any amount of money.
For any amount of money,
Government
yes.
would say they're not doing business with this numbered company. Canopy Growth is.
Well, that's sleight of hand. The fact is that they're using Canopy to sluice money through to their pals.
So, if you don't know who the owner of this land is, then how can you say make that assertion? How can you say that?
Well, I can name names, but I don't want to get sued.
Now, the Liberal Party's Dwight Ball said today there's no government money going to the numbered company leasing the land to Canopy Growth. Instead, the deal was with Canopy Growth, he said, and he defended that deal. He said it's about job creation here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Okay, Garrett, so that was one policy plank Crosby rolled out today. So what kind of reaction have the PCs received to their ideas so far?
Well, yesterday we saw Crosby propose a pretty big change to healthcare delivery in this province, plans to establish what he called a Quality Healthcare Council. It would review and take control of spending in relating to the healthcare sector in this province. Now, that was yesterday. Today, a large public sector union fought back. NAPE President Jerry Earle said Crosby is asking someone else to do the dirty work of cutting into the healthcare system. Here's yesterday's proposal and today's reaction.
Instead of spending decisions within the hospital system being made by whichever group, often physicians of some stripe, might have the sharpest elbows and the most power in the system in terms of lobbying for resources, I would prefer to see a quasi-judicial board, similar to the PUB, make spending decisions on new equipment and new drugs and areas of expenditure like that.
Actually, these healthcare boards all have boards in place already. So we're going to put a quasi-judicial, unaccountable board in place to do what? That these other boards got to go and beg to them to keep a hospital open in St. Anthony. They got to go and beg to them to keep lab and x-ray services in Buren. They got to beg to them to keep a dialysis unit in Twillingate. Is that what these boards now are going to have to do?
Now, just this afternoon, Crosby said that board that he's proposing, while it would be tasked with finding waste, eliminating waste, and finding efficiencies in the healthcare system, he promised it would not be tasked with cutting spending. And he said there would be no cuts to the healthcare budget if his party was voted into power next month. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Garrett Barry in St. John's.
Meantime, Liberal leader Dwight Ball was out doing some of his own canvassing today, door knocking with candidates in the metro area. Here Now's Katie Breen will be following the Liberals for the first part of the campaign, and she joins us now. So Katie, things are getting underway now. What happened on day one?
Well, an early start, 8 o'clock this morning. Liberals were here on the east end of St. John's on the corner, waving at oncoming traffic. From here, they went to other parts of the city, CBS and Mount Pearl. For the next 27 days, they travel in this bright red, hard to miss. Most Liberal candidates have been on board before. 27 of the 40 running are incumbents seeking re-election. But in Mount Pearl, 2 new faces.
I love Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm a resident of Mount Pearl. I want to help my community, and I want to have an opportunity to do so in government.
Murbai founder Hassan Hai is running in Mount Pearl South, and in Mount Pearl North, violence prevention advocate and former NDP candidate Nicole Kiley.
Right now, I'm just focusing on what was best for me and moving away from any sort of divisive politics. You know, I think it's really healthy to have good people on all sides working together, and that's the most important, and that's what I'm focusing on.
On the doors, Ball says electricity rates are a top concern. According to what he's heard, him dropping a budget and not debating or passing it before calling the election isn't.
People have been very encouraging. It hasn't come up that the House has been shut down at all, not once.
Ball plans to head back to his district over the long weekend to lay low and spend time with family. But the other parties can't really do that. Everyone running needs to be confirmed by Thursday, so they have to fill their candidates list. Ball says calling the election and having a long weekend fall in the middle of that process wasn't part of his strategy.
Everybody knew there was an election coming in 2019. The first party to start calling nominations was the PC party. They had about 8 or 9 done before we even called any. So if they're not ready, that's their fault. If they're not ready for a campaign, they're not ready to govern.
The campaign bus picks up again on Tuesday. I'll be along with the Liberals for the first half of the campaign, bringing you stories from the trail. Live in St. John's, I'm Katie Breen for Here and Now.
Well, a high-profile PC MHA is leaving politics. Tracy Perry has confirmed to CBC News that she's not running for re-election.
She says she misses her husband and family and wants to spend more time with them. And she says the harassment scandal last year did play a role.
Perry says she supports Jess Crosbie and is endorsing Charlene Walsh as her potential successor in that district. Well, because the budget didn't pass before an election, it has many people wondering what happens to the promise made by the Liberals. Well, I got this question on Twitter from Keith. He asked, with the election now being called and the budget not passed, does that mean the tax won't come off insurance? Or was this a non-budget announcement?
Well, that is a great question, Keith, and one the finance minister actually addressed on budget day. Let's break down how it will work.
Right, so if you renew your car insurance after April 15th, you won't pay the tax. But until the budget is actually passed, insurance companies will still charge you the tax. But you'll eventually get that money back. Here's how the finance minister explained it.
You know, nobody will be out money because of the time that it takes to officially, legally put this in place. Anybody who's renewed a policy today or tomorrow will get a rebate on the sales tax portion of their insurance.
But it's not guaranteed. For example, if the Liberals lose the election, they don't pass their budget, and whoever forms government may not follow through on that promise. The Liberals could also change their minds, something the finance minister insists won't happen. And you may be curious, if you're on monthly payments, you won't actually see that release, you won't see that amount go down until you renew your policy.
Well, in other news, more than 10 vehicles, including emergency responders themselves, were involved in a highway crashes on the Avalon Peninsula last night. Road conditions on the Trans-Canada and Conception Bay South highways were extremely slippery at the time, around 8 p.m. It happened at the Cloverleaf, an area where both highways intersect with an overpass and ramps. Police say a few people were taken to hospital as a result.
Yeah, we could thank those cooler temperatures that we saw yesterday for that, along with some snow. It took its time getting out of the way today as well, but here were your temperatures this morning, sitting between or at least below zero for the most part for the Avalon, or for most of Newfoundland. Pay attention to the temperatures up through Labrador. -10 this morning in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. take a look at where your temperatures are sitting right now. A good 20-degree difference. The hot spot actually across the province was up through Labrador. So 10 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 6 for Lab City, 9 in Churchill Falls. And then we've got those temperatures. Because that sun finally did come out in, at least for the west coast, we saw those warmer temperatures and hanging on to those cooler temperatures as we head towards eastern Newfoundland. And you can see it's because of that cloud cover. Now, I promise we will see that clearing as we head through the night tonight, but then that next system moves in. We already are starting to see that cloud cover. It's going to bring snow up through Labrador and then spread across the island for tomorrow. Snow quickly changing over to rain, and then we've got a warm up as we head towards the weekend. I'll have all those details and your full forecast coming up.
Major ruling today regarding how police investigate child predators. The Supreme Court of Canada says police do not need a warrant to carry out sting operations in child luring investigations. Today, a majority ruled that sexually explicit online messages exchanged with a minor are not private. Sean Mills of Paradise was convicted of child luring back in 2014 after an undercover operation by the RNC. Investigators set up fake Facebook and Hotmail accounts, posing as 2 teenage girls. Mills engaged in sexually explicit exchanges with someone he believed to be 14 years old and eventually arranged to meet in a local park. Mills argued his privacy rights were breached.
Suspended RNC Constable Joe Smythe could be sentenced to spend months in jail. The troubled police officer was back in court today as lawyers argued what sentence he should receive for obstruction of justice. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
Today in court, Smythe was emotional. Earlier this year, he was convicted of obstruction of justice for knowingly giving a false traffic ticket. In 2017, Smythe ticketed motorcycle driver Syed Husseini for running a red light, but video from a camera on Husseini's bike clearly shows the light was green. Today, Smythe appeared shaken as Crown lawyer Lloyd Strickland suggested a 3-month jail sentence would be appropriate. Strickland also said that taking Smythe's PTSD diagnosis into account, his sentence could be served in the community. Defense lawyer Jerome Kennedy said Smythe maintains that he is innocent and he has suffered enough. Kennedy said this conviction will likely end the 40-year-old police officer's career. Kennedy's asking for a discharge or a conditional sentence that keeps Smythe out of jail. Judge Mike Madden reserved his decision, but he said he will give it later this month. Defense lawyer Jerome Kennedy has filed an appeal of that conviction. He's seeking either acquittal or a new trial. That notice of appeal is set to be heard later in June here at the Court of Appeals. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
To the States now, where details of Robert Mueller's extensive investigation have now been released. The special counsel looked into Russian involvement in the 2016 U.S. election and whether Donald Trump attempted to obstruct justice. Here's how Attorney General William Barr summed it up.
The Russian government sponsored efforts to illegally interfere with the 2016 presidential election, but did not find that the Trump campaign or other Americans colluded in those efforts. The evidence developed by the special counsel is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense.
Now, the report has been heavily redacted. The deletions cover 4 categories: harm to an ongoing matter, such as a case before the courts, personal privacy, anything that would reveal investigative techniques, and anything before a grand jury. Now, many Democrats are taking issue with Barr's claim that there was no obstruction of justice. They're seizing on several instances in the redacted Mueller report in which Trump tried to block the investigation. Those attempts failed because his subordinates wouldn't follow the orders.
Even in its incomplete form, however, the Mueller report outlines disturbing evidence that President Trump engaged in obstruction of justice and other misconduct. I have formally requested that the special counsel Mueller testify before the House Judiciary Committee as soon as possible.
Mueller didn't exonerate Trump in his report. He said it would be up to Congress to decide whether the president abused his authority.
Well, now to Little Bay Islands and this week's budget promise that would see tens of millions of dollars made available to help residents move out of the community. Now, the problem is the election call that quickly followed the budget muddies the water over when the money will be available. The population of the community in Notre Dame Bay is less than 100, and the majority of them have voted to resettle. The school, store, and medical clinic are already shut down. News about the pending government assistance is a relief for people who say there's nothing left in the community for them. But with the budget not passed and politicians on the campaign trail, residents are left to wonder what will happen now.
Now the big thing, okay, is this going to be 6 months, a year, or 2 years? So even though they've got an answer, they're kind of still in limbo. So the next step, I guess, is for government to tell them, okay, well, the money will be available on X date and you have this long to leave, right?
Now, earlier this week, we showed you footage of a dead whale in the ice in part of western Newfoundland. Now DFO has confirmed it's a blue whale. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans confirmed earlier today that this carcass that you see here is a female blue whale. The blue whale is considered to be a species at risk. It's one of the largest mammals on the planet. DFO's Dr. Jack Lawson came to the conclusion after reviewing photos and some of this drone footage. Because of the large amount of ice, Lawson and his team haven't been able to collect samples or be able to measure the length of the whale.
Everybody knows the chorus very well, and it just generates a lot of excitement, generates a lot of energy.
Wrong song?
When campaign music gets controversial, more on copyright fights coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Order your tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, it's Thursday of a 4-day-long weekend.
Yeah, and that means before long, many of you will look something like this. He is just rocking it out. This is Georgia, an 11-month-old English sheepdog from St. John's, and by the looks of it, she loves Keith Urban. Even getting the beat there. That's pretty impressive.
Yes, she's rocking it out there for sure. Carol and Colin Thibault, those are Georgia's people, her owners, say her dad does the same dance, so we know where she learned it.
Yeah, notice that he avoided being caught on camera doing the dance, but was more than happy to show off Georgia there, so.
It's a dog after my own heart. Country music lover just like me.
Yeah.
And Keith Urban to boot. There will be a lot of happy dances, I'm sure, happening probably right about now as people are getting off from work, getting ready for the long weekend.
And they'll be even happier when they see the forecast for this weekend.
Maybe.
Maybe?
I think it depends.
You've been promising a good forecast all week. Don't back away now.
I know. I'm not promising it, but it doesn't look. It looks like it might be a little bit more gray than I anticipated. But that's okay. That's okay.
Is that snowing?
No, we're well. Not.
Let's just get to the forecast before you bring us more disappointment.
Yeah, we'll just talk about that. So here's what we saw, just in case you missed it earlier. Those temperatures sitting in the mid-single digits, cooler towards eastern Newfoundland, and then nice and warm up through Labrador. 6 for Lab City, 9 for Churchill Falls, and Happy Valley Goose Bay just reached a high near 10 degrees. So we did see some cloud cover move in, or we're starting to see that cloud cover move in for Labrador. Clearing skies will happen at least in the next couple of hours for eastern Newfoundland, and then that next system will bring that cloud cover mainly for the west coast as we head through the night tonight. Those temperatures, though, will dip back down into the minus single digits. Winds will generally ease. And then sitting around -4 for St. Anthony tonight. Again, that snow will move in. Lab City sitting around -2 is your overnight low tonight. Those light winds still continuing, but could pick up another about 2 to 4 centimeters of snow by tomorrow morning. And then Happy Valley Goose Bay will see that flurry activity move in towards the morning hours as well, hovering around the 0-degree mark. Otherwise, clear skies for the most part, or at least partly cloudy skies for the most part along the coast. Now, taking a look at the system, we can see snow will move through tomorrow. It'll be wet snow more than likely mixed with rain. Quickly transition through to rain through the afternoon for most of the island, and that's because those temperatures are going to bump up. We've been talking about these warmer temperatures, and that certainly will happen. And then we get into a stationary front, which means it's just going to sit over us for the next couple of days. And that's why we have a rainfall warning in place for Stephenville and the Corner Brook area. Generally, it's because it's still quite cold, so that ground is still frozen, along with this rain will lead to that ground isn't going to get a chance to soak up much of that moisture. And then we've got a wreck house wind warning in place. Those winds will pick up tomorrow afternoon out of the southeasterlies, 100 to 110 kilometers per hour, and then quickly those will ease into the afternoon. So here's a look at how much rain we're expecting. Again, between around 5 centimeters of snow to start, and then it will transition to rain. Looking at about 20 to 30 millimeters of rain, as I mentioned, from Stephenville up through to Corner Brook, potentially down through the Port aux Basques area. Otherwise, it's generally a trace to 10 millimeters of rain with this system. Those temperatures bumping up a little bit further north to the south are going to stay a little bit cooler, so anywhere from 3 to 4 degrees. Those winds picking up late day for eastern Newfoundland. 5 to 6 degrees for parts of central. Again, that transition from snow to rain. And you can see that along the west coast as well. 5 to 7 degrees, a little cooler for the south coast up through the northern peninsula. 2 to 3 degrees, similar temperatures up through Labrador. And then Lab City will eventually see those skies clear through the day tomorrow, but not before another couple of centimeters fall. So we'll just look quickly at the outlook over the next 3 days, or at least the weekend outlook. So you can see those temperatures are climbing as we head towards Saturday and Sunday. How much snow, or rather how much sunshine we're going to see is up for debate, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Music can be an important part of any election campaign.
Absolutely. It can get people pumped up at rallies and is often used as the party leader walks on stage.
But already in this campaign, not even 24 hours old, and PC leader Ches Crosby is finding himself facing some scrutiny for using a song without permission. Well, if you can hear it over the crowd there, that's the song played at last night's PC rally. It's Victory Song by Sean McCann, originally from Great Big Sea.
Now, it's a personal song about McCann overcoming addiction and getting sober. And McCann wrote on Twitter last night that no one had asked him for permission to use his song. He wrote, "My victory song is about winning my battle over addiction and never intended for exploitation by any political party."
Now, Crosby later apologized to McCann, also on Twitter, saying they made a mistake and it won't happen again. He tweeted, "Sean, you're an inspiration to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians everywhere. This wasn't intended to be a campaign song, but was played at the campaign headquarters. It's a great song, no harm intended. Keep making amazing music." And, of course, musical campaign controversy is nothing new, especially even for members of Great Big Sea.
Yeah, here's a look at some soundtracks from years past, starting with a copyright fight starring Stockwell Day.
It's election time and the Alliance wants their guy to look the part, young and hip. That includes his choice in music. Yesterday, this song from Great Big Sea blared as he entered a room in Lindsay, Ontario. Problem is, no one asked Great Big Sea if that was okay. Dennis Parker says copyright law is pretty simple. Any public use of a song requires permission.
Is it fair enough to say I didn't know better?
Well, you know, I think that argument is wearing a little thin these days in, the year 2000. I think that people should know better, that someone's property is someone's property, and if you want to use it, then you go and get permission from them.
We're just not interested in professionally being involved with any political party. It's really none, and the big problem is it is suggesting that we are endorsing that political party, which we are not.
Brian Tobin went about it the legal way in 1999 when he paid the Punters to rewrite one of their hits to fit his message.
I can tell you, everywhere we go when we play this song, it really pumps people up. They have a lot of fun.
The election edition of Heave Away, a rollicking piece by the Punters. Under its new liberal label, Lead the Way has punted these politicos into high gear.
From 2000.
Yeah, it wasn't yesterday, although sometimes
No.
it feels like that.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what the Liberals do. Last election, they actually got their own song written, especially for the campaign, so that they paid for it. And and the last campaign, the PCs had Uptown Funk, Bruno Mars.
Right.
Don't believe me, just watch. That was kind of the part they wanted you to focus on. So yeah, but usually it is Newfoundland and Labrador music that the campaigns like to use.
I'm sure we'll be finding out soon enough.
And of course, we were talking about long weekends. Tomorrow is Good Friday, and that means great things for businesses that sell fish and chips.
At Chafe's Landing in Petty Harbor, Maddox Cove, there are no reservations to be had as staff will be serving up hundreds of pounds of fish.
Here now's Jeremy Eaton stopped by to chat with the restaurant's manager.
Yes, we're open 11 to 9.
When do people start making reservations for Good Friday?
About 2 months ago.
And how many do you have left?
None at all.
And people still calling nonstop?
Oh yeah, about every 5 minutes. It's going to be pretty busy. I've been telling people to come about a half an hour, 45 minutes before you actually want a table so that you can be guaranteed for the time that you want. It's honestly like a typical day in the summer. There's a lineup before we even open the door, and it just does not stop until probably an hour after we close. For 7 of you, right? It's always over 600 pounds. We're expecting anywhere between 600 and 1,000 this year. We shall see.
Why are you expecting such a big jump this year?
The demand, it's been crazy. Over the past few years, the demand for fish and chips, it seems like when people think fish, we are right on the forefront of their mind. Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, we just first opened up this place. We weren't even sure what to do with it. Mom looked one day and she was like, I think I want to open a restaurant. And we were like, oh, okay. But to see where we've come now, and it's almost all word of mouth too. It's just because people enjoy our food. It's a really great feeling. Oh, it's great. I mean, we have live entertainment all day, and we make sure that we keep it fun because everybody wants to come here, have a good time, have their fish and chips. So it'll be fun. Yep, I would still recommend calling in, I'd say, a few hours in advance so that we can have your food ready when, like, for the time that you want. Okay. Yep. All right. No problem. Bye.
Government obviously thought about this and said this is what's going to work best for us.
Timing is everything, or is it?
Up next, someone who watches every move politicians make weighs in on Ball's call to go to the polls early.
Beautiful sunny day in Happy Valley Goose Bay, although they have had a fair bit of snow. As it melts, we're going to talk to people here in Labrador about what they hope for in the election campaign.
Well, the early election call came as no surprise for many people. Dwight Ball has said one benefit of a spring election is that it will avoid back-to-back federal and provincial elections in the fall. But why did Ball choose right now to call the election? We went to a political science prof, Kelly Bladuke, to get his take. What do you think the strategy is at play here, choosing last night specifically to make the election call, having just released the budget and just before the long Easter weekend? What do you think the Liberals are thinking?
Well, I think they want to go fast. I think they're looking at parties that are not fully ready. Not all the other parties simply don't have all their candidates in place. They could have sort of foreseen this and knew this was going to be a problem. I'm sure they've been scrambling. But this is a way for the Liberals, who are, because they're the governing party, it's easier for them to get candidates in place and lined up. Yeah, they're trying to catch parties off guard if they can. They're taking what advantages they can.
Elections NL says that the parties have 8 days to get candidates in place. The PCs really have an uphill battle with that now. They just have just over half of the 40 candidates in place. How much of a challenge do you think Ches Crosby has ahead of him to fulfill his promise to fill those seats?
It's a big challenge, because on top of him wanting to be on the road and doing what you just want to be campaigning at this point, you don't want to be recruiting. And you don't want to be recruiting on the Easter weekend, right? So yeah, this is definitely an extra challenge for him. It would be detrimental, certainly, to not have the full 40, because that's something we kind of look at as, you know, are you really about the whole province?
Both party leaders had speeches last night speaking to supporters and candidates and voters. What do you think about the tone that was set with those speeches? I mean,
Parties need to pick what their slogan's going to be, and I guess stick to it. I'm not a huge fan of slogans. I find them kind of annoying, and they usually don't say a whole lot. The idea that something is forward or onward or better tomorrow, you know, these things are pretty empty. But I understand why parties feel like they need to have something to kind of rally around. They need to have a slogan on the bus and everything. And then on top of that, yeah, the rhymes, Ches Crosby.
Don't mess with Ches.
Don't mess with Ches.
No fight in Dwight.
These are very kind of, I don't know, to me they feel like we're going back in time a fair distance to kind of say, you know, who listens to this and thinks that this is meaningful?
And the budget was just released a day before the election call. So essentially that will be the Liberals' campaign platform. The budget won't pass until a government is elected. So what do you make of that?
I mean, it's not entirely uncommon. I've seen it happen certainly before, where parties kind of put the budget forward to kind of say, okay, here's what we're about, here are the things that will happen if we're elected. It covers them a little bit in terms of if their platform otherwise might be a little thin, which sometimes governing parties it is. They've kind of made their promises the first time around, and so they need to have something that they can kind of look at as solid. That's what this kind of gives the Liberals.
As you say, there's nothing wrong with them doing it. It's perfectly allowed. But are there any ethical considerations with that? Because it does give them an advantage. Taxpayer dollars went into putting that budget together, which is a set of promises.
So I don't think that it's really that bad. So yes, you're using taxpayer money, but taxpayer money is going to go into budget making in any case. If the same government comes in, this is money that would have been spent regardless. So I don't really see it as a waste of taxpayer dollars. More so, I think it's reasonable for a voter to look at it, though, and to be cynical, right? And to say, okay, so this is a party that could have just passed a budget, could have given us exactly what they said they were doing, could have governed, but instead what they're doing is they've done sort of the governing part up to the point where they feel it's advantageous and then called an election. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's somehow unethical, but I think it does invite a cynicism. I think voters should look at that and say, okay, so I understand this person is doing this for their own advantage. There isn't really much more to this. What do I think of that?
All right, Kelly Bluduke, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, an election campaign isn't just a good time to hear from politicians. It's also an opportunity to tell them what you want. So today, Anthony Germain went around Happy Valley Goose Bay to ask people what they want from this election.
So Dwight Ball has made the election happen. What's an important issue to you in this election campaign?
Well, I guess like everyone else, the Muskrat Falls and the rate mitigation and how that's going to all play out in the near future for all Newfoundland and Labrador.
Are you a little bit concerned about your power bills as we head into this campaign?
Yes, of course. Right now, I mean, our power bills here in Labrador are pretty good, so we're all aware that they're going to go up, but by how much and how quickly they're going to go up is who knows for sure.
We're in an election campaign. What do you think is the most important thing the politicians need to know for Labrador?
Pretty much the road conditions and the environment and people's opinions that are voiced.
I think the roads are really important because I find when spring is coming, then there's like more water, and I think they just need to pave the roads proper, like,
An election's been called. What's important for Labrador?
Some more housing for the homeless.
What's the situation here?
There's shortage, bad shortage.
You think the politicians can address that and fix that?
We hope.
The prices of stuff, gasoline particularly, that's a concern.
Yeah, especially here in the big land, right?
Yeah. But I'm quite happy with the deal they made, this Atlantic Accord thing. I think that was a good thing to do.
What's the most important thing to you?
I think the roads are, because there's a lot of potholes here, and it seems like there's been a lot of vehicles being damaged and stuff like that.
So if I asked you to give advice to Dwight Ball, Ches Crosby, and Alison Coffin, what advice would you give them as they campaign in Labrador?
I'd tell them they need to focus more on like the South Coast Road and take care of it so people can have a smooth ride here.
What's the most important issue for you in the election?
Well, the most important thing around here, is the roads. The roads are terrible.
So what?
And the Trans-Labrador Highway is not fit.
So if I made you Minister of Transportation and Works, what would you do?
Well, I'd hire you.
You'd hire me?
Sure.
I know nothing about pavement. I'd be the worst person you could hire.
Well, you soon learn.
Good answer.
It's good he gets a real job. We'll give him a shovel, a bit of
Fill in those
pavement
potholes.
there. You can go around and put him to work.
Still sizing up the damage at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. That's next.
Welcome back to Here and Now. In France, this was a day to thank the heroes of Notre Dame. Hundreds of firefighters who battled to save the cathedral are being honored. Meanwhile, the investigation continues into what caused Monday's fire. Renee Filippone has the details from Paris.
It's been 3 days since the fire, and today was about honoring the individuals who worked hours to put it out, saving a good portion of the cathedral, which was just minutes away from total destruction. 400 firefighters were part of the effort, and this morning President Emmanuel Macron invited some of them to the Elysee Palace to honor their efforts. 270 showed up, and they're not only being credited with their bravery, but their ability to successfully save countless relics and pieces of artwork. 90% were saved, and the emergency plan that was in place, including a human chain to remove the priceless pieces from the cathedral, are being credited. Forensic experts have finally been cleared to enter Notre Dame and begin the more detailed investigation into what sparked the fire. There were concerns earlier about the stability of the building, and work is ongoing to make it safe. To date, 40 people have been interviewed, many of them involved in the restoration work that was happening at the cathedral. And it could be anything that set the fire, an electrical problem, a cigarette. The speculation here continues. But officials maintain that it does not appear to be criminal. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Paris.
And last night, bells rang out at cathedrals across France in honor of Notre Dame. The ceremony was timed to mark the moment the fire broke out on Monday. Drone video revealed the gaping hole where the cathedral's spire once stood. And as you heard Renee Filipponi mention, the rector of Notre Dame says the structure will be closed for up to 6 years for restoration, while the French president is demanding the job be done in 5. At least one expert estimates it could take up to 15. The equivalent of $1 billion Canadian dollars has been raised so far for the reconstruction.
Here at home, 3 world-renowned mountain climbers are missing and presumed dead in an avalanche near the border between BC and Alberta. The avalanche happened on Howes Peak in Banff National Park, where an American and 2 Australian climbers were attempting an ascent. One body and debris have been spotted, but recovery efforts aren't possible because of the risk of more slides.
And the federal government is delaying its decision on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Ottawa was supposed to make the final call on the project by May 22nd, but now it's moved it back almost a month. Ottawa purchased the pipeline last May after Kinder Morgan stopped construction because of protests and the political risk it might never be built. A court ruling required greater consultations with Indigenous groups, and the $4.5 billion project has been on hold ever since. The federal government says it needs extra time.
People living in some flood-prone areas in New Brunswick and Quebec are being cautioned to brace for especially heavy flooding this year. To blame, spring weather, heavy rains, and rising temperatures have led to faster snowmelt. This is a look at Quebec today, just one of the communities being urged to not take any chances. Residents are being warned that they may have to pack up and leave their homes very quickly by tomorrow. Laval, just outside Montreal, has also launched emergency flood preparations. New Brunswick saw historic flooding last year. Officials say they expect water levels along the St. John River to hit a flood stage in several communities this weekend.
Well, it's Thursday, so that means it's Weather Whiskin Day.
It
Absolutely.
is. We have a newest member, and that member is Charlie O'Brien. Such a great photo, too. He's 5 years old from Calvert, and that's his photo there.
We got a nice sunny day. We got a few birds there, you know, hopefully a little bit of
duck.
spring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a few flowers poking up there in front of the house.
I thought that was such a great photo. Thank you so much for sending that in. And there he is.
Oh, look at that.
That's
adorable.
adorable.
So yeah, thank you so much for sending your drawing in, Charlie. And if you want to be part of our Weather Whiz Kid Club, send your drawing, your photo, and your address so that I can send you a postcard in the mail to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Do I get a can I get a postcard?
If you'd like one, I have one upstairs for you.
I better start drawing.
Put your name on it.
Yeah, you need to send me a drawing.
A membership card.
Yeah. And and the reality is I suspect that drawing was way better than anything I would do. So perhaps it's just best for me to leave it to the professionals.
Perfect.
Speaking about professionals, Ms. Meteorologist, how are things looking for the weather in the long range?
Yeah, so we're going to look at Saturday's forecast. Now, I mentioned things are going to be quite wet, unfortunately. So if we take a look at what the future tracker is saying, what happens is we've got a little bit of a stationary front setting up, which basically just means that it's not going anywhere. So as we go forward, you can see that stationary front is going to bring mainly rain for most of the island anyway, through the day on Saturday. It looks like Labrador should actually be quite nice through the day on Saturday. And then as we head a little bit further into the overnight, things will start to clear up. So we could see some clearing skies, especially for the northern peninsula, by the time the morning rolls around on Sunday. But overall, those temperatures are starting to climb. So we're going to start to reach those double digits. As I mentioned, 7 degrees for Corner Brook, but more so towards the parts of Central. 10 degrees for Grand Falls, Windsor. 10 for St. John's as well, most of the Avalon. And then we've got those sunny skies up through Labrador. Temperatures between, 1 up through Nain, and then 7 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Lab City should reach a high near +4. And plenty of sunshine on Saturday. Now, looking forward, we're still looking at that potential for some showers Sunday and Monday. But I'm thinking we should see some peaks of sun as well. Those warmer temperatures make their way up through Labrador as well, so we will see a changeover to rain at some point on Sunday. And then through the day on Monday, that significant push of warm air moves in. And then again, we're going to get back into that potential for a few showers along the west coast, south coast. Eastern Newfoundland will likely see more in the way of peaks of sun, and then we'll start to see that rain move over through the afternoon and evening hours. Otherwise, clearing again up through Labrador. So it does look like we're going to see unsettled weather for sure through the weekend. But as we do, we will see those warmer temperatures as well. So here's a look at the next 5 days. There's your temperatures, 7 degrees tomorrow with a quick rain, or rather snow to start, changing over to rain, a quick 5 centimeters. And then 10 degrees on Saturday, staying generally cloudy. Do have a few peaks of sun in there for Sunday and Monday, but temperatures should reach the teens. Now, if we do see that sunshine or any significant periods of sunshine, those temperatures could bump up a couple more degrees. For central Newfoundland, looking generally gray. But again, 18 degrees Sunday and Monday, and then Tuesday still sitting in the teens through the afternoon. Western Newfoundland, same thing, generally have those gray skies. Again, few peaks of sun possible, but showers through the day on Sunday and then continuing into Monday, and then up through Labrador. Sunshine for Saturday. Sunday looks at that rain, looking for that rain, but look again, 10 degrees should be your afternoon high, 6 on Monday. And then for Western Labrador, again, another couple centimeters for tomorrow morning, and then clearing skies right through Saturday, Sunday. That potential for some rain and 7 degrees, and then dipping back down to below 0 on Tuesday. Now, just before we go to break, wanted to share this weather photo with you. The ice is starting to move in. I saw something on Twitter that the first iceberg was in St. Anthony. So
yes, I saw that.
We're getting to that point. It's getting exciting. But yeah, so here's a look at your weather photo. I'll tell you where this photo was taken and who took it when we come back.
birthday and anniversary greetings is brought to you by Lane's Retirement Living. With a pool, cinema, and chef-prepared meals, everyone wants in. Reserve your suite today.
Time now to look at who's celebrating. Happy 90th birthday to Sherry Hillier-Buffett of St. Albans. She was born in Lameline, where she survived the tsunami. She now resides in St. Albans. Joseph Masters of Red Harbor will celebrate his 96th birthday coming up this week. Happy 90th birthday this Saturday to Beatrice O'Reilly. Birthday greetings to Kay Garland, who was born 99 years ago in Flat Islands, Placentia Bay, now living in Gananoque, Ontario. Love and best wishes from family and friends to Mary Bishop Butler of St. John's, formerly of English Harbour West, on her 90th birthday.
Thomas Edmonds of Postville, Labrador is celebrating a 90th birthday tomorrow. Happy 55th anniversary greetings going out to Nathaniel and Barbara Gould today. Happy birthday to Catherine Perrell, who is celebrating her 90th birthday. Greetings from family and friends in Flowers Cove. Wishing Frank Harvey of Bay Roberts a happy 94th birthday. Lots of love from his family. Wishing Suzanne Bursey a happy 90th birthday as well.
Margaret and Anthony McNeil are celebrating their 53rd anniversary in St. Albans. Anniversary wishes going out to Lloyd and Audrey Thomas from St. Paul's River, Quebec. They celebrated their 56th wedding anniversary. Harvey and Audrey Reed of Bain Harbor are celebrating their 57th anniversary. Isaac and Mary Morgan of Seal Cove celebrating 67 years together. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to Maud and Gord Snellgrove.
Anniversary greetings going out to Woodrow and Dora Hibbs of Peterview. They celebrated their 56th wedding anniversary yesterday. Cyril Pope of Mount Pearl is 93 years old. He's originally from Stones Cove, Fortune Bay. And it's a happy 95th birthday to Kathleen Gregory of Markland. She's currently in Greens Harbor. Happy 52nd anniversary to Gordon and Sylvia Adams of Old Perlican. They now live in St. John's. Happy 50th anniversary to Charlie and Valerie Lewis of Labrador City, now living in Foxtrap.
Wes and Joan Pretty of St. John celebrating 50 years together. Congratulations, and that's today. Happy 90th birthday to Sadie Nash of Branch. Best wishes from 12 children, 27 grandchildren, and 32 great-grandchildren. Happy 51st anniversary to Dawn and Nina Bannister of Lethbridge, who celebrated their anniversary this week. Wishing Alpheus Tucker, known as Uncle Alfie of Ingley, a 95th birthday. He now lives in Roddickton. Happy 61st wedding anniversary to Earl and Jeanette Feltham of Glovertown. Jeanette's also celebrating her 80th birthday this weekend. A special weekend with Easter and lots of birthdays and anniversaries. Double reason to celebrate.
That's right.
Which is why we did the birthdays and anniversaries today, because there won't be a show tomorrow.
That's
yes, we're off tomorrow. Hopefully you were off too, and able to go outside and enjoy beautiful scenes like this one.
Exactly. This gorgeous shot was sent to us from Sandy Cove. There, as soon as it gets there, there we go, Sandy Cove, and it was taken by Norman Butt. So he sent us this icy day, or not an icy day, icy water, I guess, in Bonavista Vista Bay. Thank you so much for sending that photo in.
It's always so beautiful this time of year, where you get the sun, you get the nice white ice on the blue ocean. I really like it. And it's funny, it reminds me, it was the giant iceberg off Fairyland. It was Easter. That always reminds me, like the first icebergs, Easter's, that always ties
Before
it
we
together.
go, though, I should mention that we do have a show on Monday. We are off tomorrow, but we do have a special half-hour show on Monday, and Anthony Germain will be back for that.
Yes, we're pulling him back from Labrador, and so he'll be here on the desk.
There's an election campaign on.
Exactly. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Good night.